Welcome to Tackett's House of Horsepower. It's me, Steve Tackett. And guess what? Guess what's here? Well, I'm sure you figured it out by now by the thumbnail, but it's true. I have the transmission for this little Nova. I know. It's crazy. I didn't think it would ever happen, but it did. And here we are. Today, let's stab a transmission in. All right, so let's see what we have. We have transmission lines. We have torque converter bolts. We have a locking transmission dipstick. If I can do it, yeah. Locking dipstick. You're supposed to have this to pass tech. You know, if they want to nitpick you, they can. I've never seen anyone get kicked out for it or anything like that, but they can, you know, pick at you for it. So anyways, locking dipstick. I got a torque converter, cheapy 3500 torque converter. I mean, that's the cheapest one I've ever bought, but we'll see how it works. But here we have the Turbo 350 tranny with the trans brake. So my transmission guy opened it up. My new transmission guy, he opened this up, and what had happened was the sprag. It had a stock sprag in it. It exploded, and it wiped out the front drum. So we had to spend some money and get some parts, some good parts. So we put a hardened stuff in there, and you know, went through it, new seals and everything. All basically, it's brand new. The whole transmission is brand new at this point. But I figured better do it once, do it right the first time. And I'm glad I did. If I would have stuck it in the way it was, it would have been a disaster. It would not have worked. Metal shavings would have went through the whole system. It would have only got worse. So let's get the car in the air. Let's quit talking. All right, we got a lot to do. I need to get the car as high as I can because I'm going to do this by myself. So I'm going to get the car as high as I can and finagle this thing in there and hopefully get this thing sitting on the ground today, hopefully. Okay, once you get the car up as high as you can get it, in my case, I don't have a lift, so this is as high as I can get it. So next, I want to throw a little bit of fluid in the converter. You never want to put this in dry, never. So always throw at least a quart or so into. Come on, hey Oliver, do you mind? Hey, I'm working here. Do you mind? Get back. Rita. Okay, put a little bit of tranny fluid in here. Hopefully Oliver doesn't knock it out of my hands. You don't have to fill it, just about a half a quart or so, quart in there. Depends on the size of the converter. But either way, you just don't want to put it in dry. Okay, now this part is critical. Somewhere inside there are two ears. They could be anywhere. There's two ears that got to get into these slots. Okay? If you don't, you will destroy the transmission. As soon as you try to put the bell housing bolts in and tighten it up, you'll get to about a yay amount of gap, and then you'll hear a loud pop, and then basically the pump's ruined. So don't do that. So the way to do this is take this guy. I'm gonna try and do it one-handed, which is a bad idea. Stick it on here and spin it. You'll hear click, and then a second one, right? That guy is going to be in all the way. See there? I try to lift up on it a little bit from the bottom and try to spin it and push forward, and you'll know if it goes in all the way. The other thing you want to do is, as you're bolting the transmission to the back of the engine, you get on your dowel pins, you start catching threads on these bolts. As you start tightening it, spin it. Tighten it a little bit, spin it. If this thing binds up at all, stop. It means you're not all the way seated. If you're not all the way seated, do not try to keep tightening it up, okay? Trust me. I haven't done it myself personally, but I was standing next to a guy who did it, and it made a loud pop, and we knew right away that it was no good. And so out come the tranny and had to get a new pump. So be careful with this step. It's critical. Now, some of you are probably thinking, you can't run that torque converter with a trans brake. It's not a good idea. You need anti-ballooning plates and all that fancy stuff. And you are mostly correct. Being that this car is going to be NA, I don't think I have enough horsepower to brake it. And with these little tires in a car this light, it's not as critical, you know, in my opinion. Now, in my green Chevelle, yeah, I've got a very expensive torque converter, a 6,000 stall Hughes with anti-ballooning plates and the, you know, for the nitrous and everything. That car launches off the line on the trans brake on the nitrous from a dead stop. So I make sure that car has a really good converter. Like I said, this one though, the car's much lighter. The tires are really small. I don't have as much horsepower. I don't have nitrous. So I'm not too concerned about this torque converter. If this transmission doesn't last, what we'll probably do is upgrade it to a 400 anyways. So we're gonna get as much out of this as we can because it's what we have. And if it does go south, we're gonna upgrade it. So for now, turbo 350 with a off-the-shelf 3500 converter, it's going to be good enough. All right, now comes the hard part. I get the transmission into position, and then I try and get it up on wooden blocks first because I'm by myself. So I lift one side, slide a block under it, lift the other side, slide a block underneath it, get it up on blocks. Then I roll the jack under the front of the tranny and I try to balance it on the jack very carefully without dropping it on in my face or anything like that. So let me see if I can get some blocks. So I start small first because I'm kind of lifting at a weird angle off to the side like this. So like I try to like tip it back and then slide it under like that. Then I get a larger one. Try to get it under it. Okay, I'll do that 2 more times until I get it up on the 4x4. Then I'll slide the jack under. Okay, so what I've done is very carefully, using the teeter-totter method, I got it up on the 4x4s. Now I'm gonna slowly tip it back, see if I can get the jack under the pan. Sounds easy, right? No problem. No problem. down with the jack a little bit. Let me see. Hang on. Let me see. Yeah. Needs to go down just a little. Okay. All you guys with your fancy lifts and transmission jacks and all that. You guys don't know how good you have it. Won't come out of there. There we go. Now, scoot this back. Scoot this in. There we go. Something like that. Okay. Here we go. Now, I'll come up with the jack just a little bit. Until I get it to balance on the jack. It sounds dangerous, but it's totally safe. It's totally fine. I do this all the time. Actually, it's already balanced. Look at that. See how easy that was? So, make sure that we're as stable as possible. See, kind of needs to go forward just a little. So, keep the jack straight. Scoot it forward. There we go. Now, okay. All right. Now for my next trick, I will raise it up slowly. Let's see if I can get it on the engine. It looks like it needs to come straight up, and it's pretty much a straight shot, it looks like. So we should be good. Once I get it on one of them dowel pins, I can start threading bolts in, and then it's less scary under here. Slightly. So let me get positioned and I'll do that. Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm gonna very carefully go up and forward without knocking the tranny off the jack. Because that's the hard part. Make sure I'm good. Double check. I want to make sure I'm not going to hit nowhere, because then it gets a little wild. So far so good. I can come forward just a little. Whoa. Careful. Okay. This is a workout. Okay. In and out. Let's go up a little bit more. How are we looking? Let's check. Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. It's a little bit scary, but you know. It is what it is. You know. Let's go up a little bit more. Let's get a little bit more scary by the minute. All right. We gotta be getting close. Oh yeah. We're getting close. Okay. What's weird is it might hit the floor over here. We're a little bit crooked, so let's scoot it over just a little. Okay. Oh, it's the starter. Okay. I'm like, what is it hitting? Okay, we gotta go up just a little bit. We'll clear the starter. Okay. Gotta be close. Gotta be getting close. All right. Real close. Like, it needs to come up just a little bit more. Okay, now try to get it on the dowel pins. Ooh, that's close. That's real close. Ooh. Man, that's close. Ooh, I think it's in. You get a bolt. Let's see if I can get a bolt started. No way. I think it did. Yep. Yep. Nothing to it. See? You were worried. Okay. Now, you get your long extension out. You know what I mean. You already know the drill. And you get your swivel with your electrical tape on it. You know, if you don't know about that, then you're on the wrong channel. So, I got about 4 bolts started by hand first, only. Okay? You get your swivel on here, and you start tightening, right? And as you tighten, you spin. You tighten a little bit on one side, and then you tighten a little bit on the other side, and you keep spinning the torque converter. You keep spinning that torque converter. If that thing stops spinning, you stop what you're doing immediately. Okay? So, a little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. I'm pretty confident we're in because I don't see a gap on the bell housing at all. But that don't mean nothing. Tighten it up a little bit, spin it. Tighten it, spin it. So, that'll do it. Sometimes Novas are a little difficult, especially those top bell housing bolts. There's no room in a Nova. A Chevelle, yeah, you got a ton of room, but a Nova is a giant pain to get those top bell housing bolts. But anyways, I don't see a gap, so we're all the way on the dowel pin. We're looking good, and the torque converter is spinning free. So I would say that's a win. So now we're gonna go ahead and get all the bell housing bolts tight. That'll be half of it's gonna have to be up top, I think. But anyways, we're looking good. Okay, well, I basically had to pull half the engine apart to get to those top two bell housing bolts and get my dipstick tube in. That was a nightmare, like literally. And then you can only get your wrench down in there and get like a 1/16 of a turn to get them tightened up. So that was a pain. But all the bell housing bolts are in it. So let's go back under and work on a crossmember and torque converter bolts. Real quick, before I get to the crossmember, I want to switch out the transmission pan. The original one, we just stuck it on there just for transporting it back and forth and sliding it around on the garage floor. But I got a deep one over there. We're going to switch that out. And the back bolts across the back, you can't get to when the crossmember's in the way. So now's the best time to do the pan switch. So I'm going to do that real quick. Let me slide on in here. Now, the gasket, we just put the pan on dry. We don't put nothing on the gasket. Don't put silicone and all that on there. Just stick it on dry. And that's it. I'll put one there and I'll put one up here or something. Okay. I gotta figure out which bracket goes on here and spacers and stuff too. So 2 of these I'm gonna leave off real quick, but I'll stick them all in here and tighten it up. Okay, transmission pan is done. Now let's move on to transmission crossmember. Now this question has come up several times on the Nova pages and Facebook pages and stuff I've seen. And everybody's swapping out their power glides and stuff, and they want to know, can I put a Turbo 350 in it? What do I have to do? And the answer is yes. A Turbo 350 will fit this crossmember. A Turbo 350 and a power glide dimensionally are the same as far as your location of your bell housing bolts, your location of your transmission crossmember bolts, the overall length, stuff like that is going to be the same. But there's one problem. These bolt holes will line up fine, but this will hit the transmission pan. On a power glide, they're a small little square pan. And on a 350, They got this weird shape and they're a lot longer. So this will hit the pan. So you have to do a little bit of modifications here to get it to fit. And sometimes you'll have to change the yoke, you know, the output shaft of the Power Glide has a different spline. But the drive shaft should be the same length. You might have to change the yoke. This crossmember will work if you do a little bit of cutting. And when I mean cutting, I mean cutting. You got to do some cutting. So you're gonna have to whack this thing back about an inch or so. And you'll see, you try to put these bolts in, you try to lift this up, it's gonna hit the pan. So you gotta get a little creative, but you can use a stock crossmember. Well, I got updates. That fancy one I just showed you, somebody, I didn't do this, this was in the back of the car when I bought it. And I thought, that's kind of cool. Look what they did there. All right. They cut this down and they welded it. That looks pretty good. They put this square channel in here. I don't know why. But the problem is, you can't get these bolts in because the wall of this square tube doesn't clear the head of that bolt. You see what I'm saying? So when you try to put the bolt in, you hit this square channel. So I don't know, that looked all fancy, but we're not gonna be able to use it. So what I did was I took the stock one, and I cut that lip. See the lip? Look at the edge of the pan and look at the lip. So that's pretty much what you gotta do. And you can get the stock crossmember to fit just fine. So there you go. All right. Now we got torque converter bolts we got to do still. We got a drive shaft we got to do still. And I don't know. Transmission lines, that was the big one. All right, let's get to work. Okay, now let's go ahead and do these torque converter bolts. Okay. And here's how I do it. Maybe you do it differently, I don't know. But here's how I do it. I put one of them in, and then I tighten it about halfway, and then I stop. You only go about halfway. And then you rotate it, and you get the next one started. Okay? And then you stop. And you go to the last one and you tighten it up about halfway. Once you get them all started about halfway, then you start tightening them up. If you don't, also you should put blue Loctite on these, but I got these special nuts that are like crimped, so they're not going to come loose. But if you want to, you can put blue Loctite on them. You probably should, but I'm not going to. Okay. Now, go about halfway and stop. Okay. Now we gotta rotate the motor and put in the next one. Keep doing that until you get them all started. Okay, torque converter bolts are in and tight. Now, like I said, you don't want to put one in and tighten it. You got to get them all started before you start tightening. If you don't, you won't be able to get them in. You get one in, and when you go to the other two, you won't be able to get them in. So, get them all started, then go around and tighten them. And you want to tighten them basically until they're about to strip, and then just go a little bit further. And then you're done. So, torque converter's done. Now, before I get too crazy, I forgot I took all this apart. So I got to put all this back together. Then transmission lines and drive shaft. And we should be able to put fluid in it and start it and see what it does. Okay, we got all this put back together. That looks good. I went out to the shed and grabbed this guy. So my blue station wagon, last time I had it apart, I put a Hides front end on it. And the Hides front end moved the engine forward like an inch. So my drive shaft was too short. So it's been sitting out in the shed. I had a new drive shaft made. So this thing is from East County Drive Shaft in El Cajon, my old stomping grounds right here. This thing is probably, I bought it in like 1998, I believe. I don't even know if that place is still open. If they are still open, that place is awesome. Hopefully they're still open. Anyways, I'm gonna stick this guy in. It should bolt right up because I have a stock front end on this car. So the engine and transmission is in the stock position. So this should bolt right in. And this thing is tested, you know, it's seasoned. This thing used to run 1140s many times. So hopefully it's got a few left in her. Check out these tranny lines. I got them for a power glide. I got them for Oki actually, because Oki's a power glide. But yeah, with a little bit of finagling and massaging, it kind of sort of works. And they're stainless steel, so they're pretty good. I think I'm gonna just go with it for now. It should be fine. Well, I see two issues. One, I don't have enough tranny fluid. This one's basically empty, and this one's like half full maybe. So I don't have enough tranny fluid. And because the transmission is now jacked the engine up at a different angle, my linkage is now it's pinned. Like my throttle linkage is stuck. So that's not good. So I'm gonna have to redo this angle. I might have to lengthen this or straighten it, bring it up higher, and bring this straighter. Same thing I had to do on Down and Dirty. I thought I had enough clearance, but I guess not. So I trusted my solid engine mounts, and they obviously were leaning more than I thought they were. So with the transmission in, my linkage is no good. So my throttle is now stuck, and I don't have enough fluid. So I'm gonna have to clean up and go get tranny fluid in the morning, see what I can do about this linkage, and then see if it'll, you know, do the, you know, run through the gears forward and backward and all that sort of thing. So I guess I'm done for today. So I will see you all in the morning. Well, good morning. I'm back. So I'd really love to see this thing go through some gears today. I mean, that's the plan. But first, I got to do something about this throttle linkage. I can't have that bound up like that. So let me get this off. I think I'm gonna cut it and lengthen it slightly and maybe kick it over a little bit so it's more of a straight shot. I don't like that angle. I mean, right now it's being pushed over there because of this curve, but anyways, it's not straight and it's not tall enough. The biggest problem is because of the intake manifold. As soon as you get this tall intake on here, and that's a factory V8 throttle linkage, so it's definitely not tall enough. It doesn't clear my fancy throttle return spring bracket. I had the same issue on Down and Dirty, so it should be an easy fix. If I cut it, weld it, bend it slightly higher, and that way we should be good. So this should be a simple project. I'll knock it out real quick. Then we'll jack it up, get it off the ground, put some tranny fluid in it, fire this thing off, and see if it goes forward and reverse and stuff. Things like that, you know? All right, let's do it. Okay, so I took it out. I think what I need is a little bit less angle and a little more height. So I might do a pie cut shape out of that bend right here, and then get some of that angle out, and then raise it up maybe about an inch, inch and a half, and that should be plenty. So I'm thinking something like that. If I weld that up, that should do it. All right, let me get the welder. Okay, let's see if I can get a tack weld on here. I need to kick this up at an angle too. Something like that, maybe. Let's try it. Okay. Okay. Let's get this second piece on here. Okay. Just a couple spot welds for now. I'm going to test it out and make sure it's right, and we'll go from there. All right, check it out. We got plenty of space now. It's not touching. It's quite a bit higher with a little bit less angle, but I get full throttle. It doesn't hit, doesn't pinch, doesn't bind. Looks good. So that being said, we know, especially with this intake manifold, that carburetor is sitting up pretty high. So I don't know what I'm gonna do for an air filter with a stock hood. I don't know, I'm gonna have to ditch this hood and get a cowl induction hood, I don't know. But getting an air filter on here is gonna be interesting. But anyway, I can put my spark plug wires back and throw some transmission fluid down it. And then I'm gonna jack it up and see what happens. All right, the moment of truth. I put about a jug and a half of fluid in it. I know that pan is deep, so it's gonna take a few quarts just to fill the pan, but I'm gonna get it started. Hopefully this thing will run. I haven't really figured out all the carburetor issues yet, but here goes nothing. Still low on fluid. Let me check it and try it again. Okay, I'm back. And so it was low on fluid, of course, so I topped it off. But I was like, for a split second there, I was a little bit nervous because I put it in reverse and nothing happened. And I put it in drive and it started going. I was like, okay, thank God. And then I put it back in reverse and I didn't have reverse. So I just thought maybe it was low on fluid. So I checked the fluid, It was low, I topped it off. But I'm an idiot because I totally forgot this car has a trans brake. It won't go in reverse. I think this one you have to hold the button, which some of you do, some of you don't. Maybe it's a turbo 350 thing, I don't know. But the turbo 400 in the green Chevelle, you put it in reverse, it goes in reverse like normal. You don't have to hold the button. So I think this one will not have reverse until I hook up the trans brake. So, and I don't have the I was gonna get a knob with a button on it, and I just haven't ordered it yet. So anyways, let's see if we can get it to run for a little bit longer and whatever. I don't think I'm gonna have reverse right now. Still doesn't want to idle. But hey, the wheels spun all by themselves. Okay, so I'm pretty happy. It ran, it got all three forward gears. I'm 99% positive this one you have to have the trans brake hooked up, and you have to put it in reverse and hold the button in order to get this thing to go in reverse. So I'll get that shift knob ordered up with a button on it, and then it's just 2 wires to wire it. But here's the best part. Look at this. Nothing on the ground. That's the best part right there. Not one drip on the floor. That makes me happy. I cannot stand leaks, especially transmission leaks. Oh my God. Yeah, look at that. The floor's dirty, but there's no tranny fluid on it. No oil either, or coolant. So hey, it's a win. We're making progress. Kinda, sorta. I'm trying anyways. You know you're making progress when the car is sitting significantly lower than it was before. Like you've added quite a few parts and the car is heavier now and it's sitting lower. We're almost touching rim. Look at the rim is almost in the wheel well. But yeah, it's got a nice little stance to it. I kind of like it. It's starting to look kind of mean. I got a long ways to go, but it's getting there. But yeah, I can tell it's, especially the front tires, look at that. It is sitting quite a bit lower. I like it. It looks good. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. I got a few things to button up on it before we can try and drive around the block. It needs brakes. I mean, a couple brake lines and bleed it, and it should have brakes, so that shouldn't be a big deal. I need to order up that shift knob with a button on it, wire that trans brake up. Hopefully we'll have reverse, so that would be good. And that carburetor, I was just looking at it, that carburetor is sitting pretty high, so it's going to be interesting getting an air filter in there, so we're gonna have to figure that out. But hey, I just want to say thank you very much for hanging out with me. Please hit like, hit subscribe, hit comment, tell your friends, all that stuff. It really helps out the algorithm, really helps me out. So I really appreciate it. And till next time, see ya.